So a couple of weeks ago, we interviewed team GB coaches. We heard a lot from players and bits and pieces, and saw a lot of images. But there was someone there who goes under the radar. They go under the radar. I'm quite fortunate to know a couple of them. So I get the inside scoop. But as we were chatting at the championships, Will texted me and said it'd be good to do an inside scoop of how refs work. So for those who aren't aware who this is, Will, introduce yourself.
I'm Will Osborne. I'm the National Technical Director for Bisha and also an international referee for the IISHF.
Okay, just 2 seconds before we carry on. Is that a West Ham top?
Yes.
Right, I'm not sure we can continue. Not having it. So we just want to discuss really, because I think lots of, obviously, some of us are aware of what goes on in refereeing, some aren't. So we'll start off with, you started reffing relatively young, didn't you?
I did, yeah. So I originally took my refs test with Bisha when I was 15, actually, in Swindon, as it goes. I was still a player at that time, playing for the Chelsea Checkers, and the Bisha announced a referees course, so I thought, I'll give it a go, why not? I couldn't actually start refereeing until I was 16, but I think I was 15 and a half or whatever, so went on the course and then started reffing in Bisha in Hastings, doing some younger age groups, peewees and youths and that sort of thing, and just went from there, sort of carried on reffing. And when I got to, I think when I was about 16, 17, it was when I just started driving. I reffed every game under the sun in Basildon when we were still in Pitsea.
God's country.
Yeah, and then from there just got sort of the invite to try it out internationally. Went to the Rams Cup in Dusseldorf to take my assessment test per se. And then went from there and been internationally reffing ever since.
Okay. So obviously you started refereeing internationally. What's the best bit about that?
I think it's probably the camaraderie and the teamwork, really, because obviously every tournament we go to, there's somewhere sort of 5, 6, 7 of us from all over the country, whether it be from all over Europe, whether it be Denmark, Austria, Germany, Switzerland, Ukraine. We've got referees from all over Europe, so we all come together obviously for these tournaments throughout the year, and it's just the camaraderie and the team together, really. We all turn up. If it's a 2-day tournament, we've obviously I've got 2-day or 3-day tournaments, so we'll all turn up the day before, all stay in the same hotel, all be together all weekend, eat together all nights, and just work together throughout the whole weekend. So you get a really good sort of bond between the team. You see the same guys in and out. I think there's about 15 of us on the international circuit at the minute, so you come across the same guys. You've built some really good friendships and bonds. And you just have a great laugh going all over Europe, really. So we get to go to tournaments in, as I say, Germany, Switzerland, Austria, Denmark. Obviously, we were lucky enough to host one here this year. But it's just a great experience just to get out and about throughout Europe and build some friendships and relationships, really.
So best rink?
Probably Rosmaison.
Yeah, I can't talk about that.
I've
still got the salad tongues. For those who know, you'll know. I think the after parties are probably the best bit for me. I think you're right, that end of party, that celebration, because I think refs go under the radar. So for me, a good ref, you don't notice what they're doing. They're just part and parcel. They're playing it along, and I think players concentrate so much on what's happening and they take. I think we take for granted. I know I did when I was playing. You take for granted that someone is going to stand there at centre circle, drop a ball, and blow a whistle every so often. You might agree with him, you might disagree with him, but it's that unsung hero for me.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not the easiest job in the world. I'm not going to confess that it is, and you don't always have the best day, and you don't always have the best game. But if you don't have a good game, usually it gets noticed. Whereas if you do, it doesn't. So if you can walk off that pitch and no one's really noticed you, then most of the time, then you know you've done a good job. Obviously, there's going to be controversial games where it gets a bit feisty, gets a bit naughty, then where you've got to give penalties. But if you can walk off without being noticed, generally 9 times out of 10, you've done a good job.
Okay, so best game you refed?
Recently, I mean, the game that I did in the championships a couple of weeks ago, the semi-final Switzerland-Denmark. That was a really, really top-quality game where Denmark took it by 1 goal. I think it was quite towards the end, but yeah, it was neck and neck right the way throughout. Both teams went at it for the whole game. And the final was good as well. The final was really good, Denmark-Germany. But I think the Swiss game in the morning was, it was probably one of the better games I've ever reffed, to be honest.
That was your first men's final, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah, men's championship final, yeah.
How was that?
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, it was a strange atmosphere in there. Actually, it wasn't. It was a good atmosphere. Obviously, the home team were playing, Germany were playing, and the rink was great, and the hall was great. But I don't know, it just felt. Me and Conrad, the other way, I felt it was a bit of a strange atmosphere in there. I don't know what it was, whether it was whether it was everyone was expecting it to be Germany, Switzerland, because that's what it looked like potentially going in, where Denmark maybe caused a bit of an upset in the morning. Whether that changed the atmosphere slightly, but yeah, it was great. It was really, really cool, and it was the first ever full game of skater hockey I've reffed as well. So it was 3:20 stop clock. So it was a long game because obviously we play shorter games at home, and generally when you're at a European tournament, they're cramming the games in because they want to get as many games as possible. But the championships is slightly different, and the final was a full 3:20 game, which is quite cool.
I remember saying here, I said to my wife, I'm going to watch it. She said, when's it going to finish? I went, yeah, we've got ages yet. We'll put the kids to bed, we'll bath. The game will still be going on, so don't worry about it. 3:20, and that must be quite hard because it's stop clock as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a bit of a marathon. You've got to make sure you're switched on the whole time, obviously, because you never know when something's going to happen. I mean, I think it does change the style of the game because people aren't going all out for the whole game. There are periods in the game where it sort of lulls down a little bit and tactical breathers and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, for a referee, you can never switch off because you never know when that 1 second something's just going to flip on its head, and you've got to make sure you don't miss it.
So that was your best game. Worst?
I don't know. I've had some shockers.
never noticed.
Well, no, exactly. That's the good thing about it, I suppose. I mean, when you've reffed for 10 plus years, you're going to have some shockers along the way, aren't you? I think the trickiest ones are we've had a couple of 8 o'clock face-offs down in Borden on a Sunday morning, whereby you're getting up at 5, half 5. For me, it's an hour and 40 minutes down there, getting your kit straight on. And I think a couple of times we've had some men's games at 8 o'clock, and that can be tricky. I know I had one last season, and they'll all wind me up about it, where I missed a goal that was right in front of me, and everyone in the whole place saw it, apart from me. And I don't know how. I was right in front of it. I was looking right at it, but somehow it came in and out, and I missed it. So we're not always perfect, but
did you give it?
No.
So you didn't even give the goal?
No. Yeah, no.
Standard.
Because I didn't see it. And then afterwards, everyone said, do you know that went in? And then the timekeeper said, do you know that went in? And I was like, well, sorry.
Yeah, VAR, mate. VAR. VAR.
Yeah.
So what's the trickiest, I suppose, the trickiest calls to find? Because I know we play NHL quite a bit, and we always make a joke that we used to until we got kids and we fall asleep by 8 o'clock in the evening. About elbows. I always find elbows quite tricky to...
Yeah.
So I know when I used to play, you could hide a good elbow.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, the one for us in the UK that we all not find tricky, but finding the right level for is slashing. The hockey here is quite sticky. Everyone likes to get a stick in, and I don't know whether that's because we've got a lot of puck players as well now, and everything is done with a stick there. But I know when we've had a couple of the German guys come over to ref our nationals, they've always said that's the thing that they struggle most with, is where we draw the level with the sticks and with the slashing. Obviously, you get the obvious ones on the hands and on the hips and all that sort of stuff, but we are quite sticky. So that's a tricky one to draw the line at, I find.
I love a good slash. Just whack it in there. Okay. Yeah. You can't beat it. So internationally, obviously, if it's slashing here, what about on the continent?
I would say we probably the Brits get done quite a lot for slashing. It's slightly less. I think it's funny because you can tell every nation has a sort of different way of playing. So that's sort of our way of playing. We're quite quick on our feet, and I think the Germans are a bit more tactical, and they can slow the game down a bit more because, again, they're used to playing the longer games. At home, they play the 320s, and they know how to control a game and tactically work a game in that way. And the Swiss are all out, as they normally are.
Yeah. God, the energy is just.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
So when I saw that because you can never count Denmark off, but when I saw Denmark won, I thought that must have been such a hard fought game because the Danes play so different as well. Where they're very slow, very controlled. So it must have been tactically. It must have been.
Yeah, it was a great game.
Well.
Really great game.
So you've talked about that. So obviously, as opposed to purpose when we chatted about this was to inform people what they should ref. So what's the best thing about reffing? For me, it's blowing a whistle. If you give me a whistle, I'm happy all day long, no matter where I am in life.
I mean, for me, it's where I've got to ultimately. I get to go around Europe and ref in these great rinks, great halls, and see all different parts of Europe, meet different people from all over the continent. And where I've got to now, it's great. And I do get satisfaction out of obviously reffing, whether it be younger age groups and seeing people develop. And where I've done it for such a long time now, I've seen, for instance, Malik Martelli and Harvey Briggs, that from when they were literally peewees, I was reffing them, and now they're up at seniors. So you get that satisfaction of seeing a player develop and seeing people develop. And I don't know, it just gives a different perspective. And it's just, obviously I love playing. I still do love playing. I haven't played for a little while now, but I found that reffing's sort of taken over slightly. I couldn't really put my finger on what was so great about it, but it's just
you enjoy it. And I suppose
exactly.
I always teach students, do what you love. If you do what you love, you're happy. If you don't do what you love and you're not happy in life. If you're not happy in life, nothing falls into place. You've got to do stuff that makes you happy. So
exactly. But don't get me wrong. There's still days where you leave a rink and you think, oh, why do I do this? Why do I carry on and do this?
Yeah.
But when you get I think that's the other thing. I hate that commute home from Borden, which is an hour and a half, an hour and 45. But it does give you time to process what's gone on in the day and think about it. And because obviously sometimes you come off, and I think that's where us as an organisation, as Bisha, have got to support referees, because sometimes if you're going to have games where you might get a bit of abuse, you might get people not agreeing with you, players, coaches, fans, parents, whatever it is. But you need someone in your ear to say, actually, that was the right call. You have done the right thing.
Yeah.
Because emotion gets in the way a lot of the time. And that's completely fair enough. You see it in any sport. If something's not going your way, sometimes you do see red. Sometimes you don't agree with it. Sometimes you do try and find the scapegoat. And that's not always necessarily the right thing. And the referee maybe has done the right thing, but doesn't feel like when they come off the rink that they have.
Yeah. And I think you're right there. I remember when I was not a very good referee, or I can referee, but I forget the rules. It's as simple as it gets. And I was refereeing the Daniel Carter. And I remember I gave a goal when the goal moved off the goal line. And I remember Mike Gibbo coming up to me afterwards and going, "You gave that goal and it's the right call." But at the time, I had everyone, and I'm thinking, "Oh exactly. God, it's a semi-final. What have I done? I've blown the whistle because I'm happy." You've got to give it. It's reflection. I suppose is really important. I know for me, like, reflecting practice is massively important. I commute now, and I do the same. I do the same in my gig, and imagine it's similar to refereeing. Thinking about what went well, how can I be better? Is the constant. So
and it's the same. It's the same with a player, isn't it? It's the same with a player and a team. When you come off, you need a coach to say, right, you've done this well, you didn't do that so well. It's the same with a referee. There's two of you out there that you're still a team. You need someone on the sidelines to be watching what you're doing, telling you what you can do better, telling what you're doing good, and developing and moving on and coaching from there. And that's exactly what we have on an international tournament. We have a referee supervisor who's there just to watch, help us, make sure we're developing, making sure we're doing the right things, making sure everyone's on the same sort of page.
Yeah, and it's the flow, because I know when I've ref review before, like with silly things that like I weren't doing, it's like collecting the ball from the goal, who collects it, who doesn't, and the flow, especially when it's non-stop clock and it's just running clock.
Yeah, exactly.
It's important. So give us some inside scoop. I know there's a couple of things that happen, a couple of signs that we see on the pitch that when the referees happen, if you're willing to.
Well, yeah, there's a couple of little bits and pieces. I can't give too much away, obviously, but when whenever you see a referee hitting the ground, you might see a little different sign come up, which isn't in the rule book, but yeah, it means
I know when I've done tournaments.
if you know what happens when you get a hole in one in golf, that's what happens if you see a referee hit the floor.
I know when I've done tournaments and I've seen that sign, I'm thinking, right, I'm running. I'm the first one to the bar. Cool.
Yeah.
I suppose we talked about all the fun. What's the worst bit about it?
Obviously, there is games here and there where the people don't think you've done the right thing, and you might get a bit of abuse and stick. But I suppose that it is part and parcel of it. But again, it goes back to that point whereby if you've done a good job, half the time you don't get noticed. I mean, as I said, there's always some games which are going to cause aggro. There's certain rivalries where there's potentially going to be a little bit in it, a little bit of extras going in here, there, and everywhere. But I suppose it's managing that and managing the game as well, because that's a big part of refereeing is in-game management, making sure you call the right penalties or not call it, ref it to a certain level, and make sure it's fair on both teams, really. So I suppose that's probably the worst part about it, is if you are in a really feisty game and getting a bit of stick from different people.
Yeah, and I suppose there's a bit of a respect thing there as well. I suppose you've got to build that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's something that I'm going to massively work on here at home, is the respect part of it. But I think it all stems from potentially the consistency as well. We've got to make sure, if we've got referees here, that everyone's refereeing on the same line. Everyone's refereeing with the same consistency. So it doesn't matter if you turn up one week, the next week, or the week after that, and you have 3, 4, 5, 6 different referees. They all referee to the same level. They all know what they're doing, and they all know the rules, and they all know that this is the level, this is the line, this is where you draw the line, and this is what's a penalty and what isn't. And I think that's potentially something that we've struggled with a little bit here domestically, is getting that consistency and getting everyone on the same page and getting everyone doing the same thing and the right thing.
Yeah, I suppose it's of any sport, isn't it? I suppose. Like if you hark to football.
Yeah.
The big debate at the moment is with VAR. Is it a pen? Is it not a pen? Is it a red? Is it not a red? I suppose one sport that does get it right is rugby, and that respect thing there is when I see a rugby referee is amazing, and I suppose it's an education for the players as well to not abuse our officials, because
exactly.
They are travelling an hour and a half, 2 hours to turn up, put a shirt on, skate 6 hours a day.
Exactly. I mean, you have to do it for the love. You're not there for the money. The money's not the be all and end all, because it doesn't pay fantastically. It pays okay. It covers your travel. It covers your costs, and you get a bit of pocket money on the side. But you have to do it for the love. You have to do it for the love of the sport and keeping the sport going and making sure everyone gets a game. So that's why we have to have players and parents and coaches and people step up, so that we can still put games on, we can still put a league on, and we can keep skate hockey alive effectively.
So for those, I'm going to sound really old now. I'm going to sound really lectury. Young people.
Yes.
Young people. How can they get into reffing?
So yes, I'm going to be launching I'm hoping in the new year, before the new season starts, I'm going to be moving the training online. So I'm hoping to have some pre-recorded training courses that anyone can pick up at any time, different videos, game footage videos, pre-recorded sessions on, obviously, as we were talking about earlier, the positioning, the rules, all of that sort of stuff. Because the way I see learning to referee is it's like learning to drive. You can do as much as you want, you can practice as much as you want, you can go out with different people, but until you actually pass your test and you get out there and start driving yourself, you never really grasp it, do you? You can do loads of, we could get people down and do practice games and this and that, but until you're actually there reffing a real game and dropping the ball in an actual game, it really doesn't mean a lot. Obviously, you need to know the rules, you need to know what you're doing, you need to know your positioning. But for me, that can all be done online. And then we get you down for a under 13s game or a under 10s game and start working on it practically there.
Yeah.
So that's the plan. I'm hoping to launch that course in the new year alongside a timekeeper's course as well. So we do both of them online. And then it just gives everyone that flexibility of you don't have to come at a certain time and do the course at that time. if you work nights, you can do it at 3 a.m. You can do it at 8 o'clock at night. It just gives everyone that flexibility to be able to learn whenever they can. And the other flexibility it gives us is if we know we've got a few Pee Wee games on a weekend, we can have a real push and a real drive to get a few people qualified on the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then we know by the Sunday we've got all of these new referees coming in. It just gives us that constant stream of new people coming in, because that's something I've always said is we've got such little people that everything gets put on those people, and then it ends up those people end up burning out, and then they don't want to come back and do it again. Whereas if you can spread the load a bit more and you can get more people involved, you never know when you're going to find that next person who really wants to take it up and really wants to move forward with it and become an international referee and work at it.
Yeah, because we've got quite a few now, haven't we, internationals, and it's just through that development.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's that tacit knowledge, isn't it? It's like for me, like silly things like I always forget to not stand on the board. What's going to happen?
Yeah.
Ball's going to come through.
Exactly.
And it's silly. It's silly things like that. You don't clock until you're running games.
100%, yeah, exactly. And you can just drip feed that as you go. You need to know the basics of how to do a face-off, what the rules are, what a penalty is, what isn't a penalty, where you're dropping the ball, where free hits are, and that sort of stuff. That's all the basics that we can package up and teach anyone, really, as long as they can skate a little bit and can blow a whistle. It's not difficult to learn the fundamentals and the basics, and then you just sort of drip feed more and more and more, and all of these little nuances and all of the bits and pieces of how to stand, where to go, where to move, what you're looking for, how to work with your other partner, how to work with your referee, and developing and moving on. And hopefully we can build some really good referees and bring that officiating standard up and up.
Yeah, I suppose for me as well, refereeing. For the players that really want to be really, really, really great players, doing a bit of refereeing helps, because actually
100%.
You see the game from a different viewpoint, especially when you're standing on that side and you can see everything that's happening, and you can kind of sit there and go, well, do you know what? He's just done this, or she's just done this, and this. Actually, I know next time I play, if I don't do that and I do this, that's going to happen. Exactly. And you see such a wide range. Just one thing I used to love. I wasn't the best player in the world, but I was always trying to be better. And by going to matches, by officiating, by doing the stuff that I did, you got to see so much hockey. You learn. It was your education. So it was really, really good.
100%.
Right. Last words, my friend. What do you want to say? Anything you want to depart to the world?
Just that obviously we're preparing for the new season with Bisha now. We've got the preparations underway. We're hoping to start obviously early next year. So keep an eye out for the courses and stuff that are going to come up with the referees and timekeepers. I want to obviously try and get as many people involved from all different clubs and just try and sort of push the sport forward and keep this momentum going and keep pushing. And just that anyone, obviously, as I said, from where I came from, I've worked my way up to be an international referee literally just by reffing games. It's not anything that's above and beyond. It's not anything, and the International Federation are crying out for more referees, especially from the UK, as we've got 3 at the moment. But yeah, we're always crying out for more people. So yeah, get involved.
Cool. Last word before you run. For those who don't know, Will managed and put together that tournament in Borden. So massive well done. It looked awesome. Steve as well, yeah. But he's not on the call, so we can't send the love. If he does one, he'll get love. If he doesn't, he don't get love. As simple as it gets in the Blackburn household. But just in general, it looks amazing. And get involved. I know for me, obviously, I used to be involved. I've come back purely by watching that and feeling that excitement. So please get involved. Cool.
Yeah, no matter how big or small of a role people can do, we always want them to get involved. It doesn't matter whether you can spare 5 minutes a week, 5 minutes a month. Just get involved and help us push it forward.
Cool. Okay, bud.
Lovely.
Nice one.
Thanks, mate. Speak to you soon.